Hello students, a very good morning. Today I am going to discuss a special topic related to coordination compound, that is crystal field theory. But before discussing crystal field theory, we have to discuss a few topics related to coordination compound. First of all, if anyone asks you which ligand is strong and which ligand is weak, is it clear to you? Suppose if I write Cn minus CO NH3 H2O SCN minus, then H2O SCN minus NO2 minus, friend, is it clear to you? If I write like this PY EN dipyridyl fen, is it clear to you? These all are the example of ligands. Is it clear to you? If I write like this F minus Cl minus Br minus I minus OH minus O2 minus S2 minus, is it clear to you? C2O4 2 minus, then C2O4 2 minus, then etc. You can write like this. Okay. Now if anyone asks, I am going to ask you, tell me which one is a strong field ligand and which one is weak field ligand. So I am providing you a small technique, a short technique, that if a ligand has, wait for a moment friend, if a ligand has carbon or nitrogen donor atom, if a ligand has carbon or nitrogen donor atom, then the ligand is, friend, strong field ligand. Is it clear to you? Then the ligand is strong field ligand. Is it clear, friend? If a ligand has carbon or nitrogen donor atom, that is, if a ligand contain carbon and nitrogen is donor atom in this case, then we can say the ligand is strong field ligand. Is it clear to you? Now if I talk about Cn minus, friend, here carbon is donor atom. If I talk about Nc minus, then again here nitrogen is donor atom, so strong field ligand. If I talk about carbonyl, here carbon is donor, that is, it is also an example of a strong field ligand. What I am telling, carbon or nitrogen donor atom. Now if I write here En, ethylene diamine, as we know here nitrogen is donor atom. If I talk about pyridine, it is also an example of a strong field ligand, nitrogen donor atom. Again, if I talk about dipe, it is here also a nitrogen donor atom. If I talk about fen, here also the nitrogen is donor atom. Is it clear to you? Now if I talk about NO2 minus, here nitrogen is donor atom. Now if I write ONO minus, now tell me, friend, what will happen? In this case, nitrogen, there is a presence of nitrogen, but here oxygen is donor atom, so it will not be considered as a strong field ligand. Is it clear to you? What I am telling, friend, again I am repeating, if a ligand has carbon and or nitrogen donor atom, and the donation of lone pair is done from carbon or nitrogen atom, then the ligand is treated as a strong field ligand. Is it clear to you? Then we can say the ligand is a strong field ligand. So in this case, again Cn strong field ligand, CO strong field ligand, NH3 strong field ligand. Now SCN, here is the presence of nitrogen, but here is sulfur, so it is treated as a weak field ligand. Here oxygen, that is a weak field ligand. Here nitrogen, that is a strong field ligand. This one is a strong field ligand. This one is a strong field nitrogen donor atom. This one is a strong field ligand nitrogen donor atom. This one is also a strong field ligand nitrogen donor atom. But here fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, OH, O2 minus, S2 minus, C2O4 minus. Here there is no oxygen, no carbon or nitrogen. Due to this reason, they will consider as a weak field ligand. Is it clear? This is a simple method to find out which one is a strong field ligand and which one is weak field ligand. Is it clear, friend? Wait for a moment. So we can write here, if a ligand has oxygen, sulfur or halogens, if a ligand has oxygen, sulfur or halogens donor atom, then we can say the ligand is, friend, weak field ligand. Then we can say the ligand is weak field ligand. Is it clear to you? Then we can say the ligand is weak field ligand. Now you can write like this: F minus weak field ligand, friend, Cl minus weak field ligand, Br minus weak field ligand, SCN minus weak field ligand, S2 minus weak field ligand, O2 minus weak field ligand, OH minus weak field ligand, H2O weak field ligand, C2O4 2 minus. Look at here, here is the presence of carbon. Don't be confused, friend. Here the donor atom is oxygen, not carbon. What I'm telling, friend, here the donor atom is oxygen, because we know the structure of oxalate is like this. So don't be confused. There is O minus. So this oxygen is a donor atom. So we have to check which one is donor atom. Is it clear to you? In C2O4, oxygen is donor atom. So in this case, C2O4 is treated as weak field ligand. Is it clear to you? I think now you are very much familiar how to find out which one is a strong field ligand and which one is weak field ligand. To arrange this ligand, what I'm telling, to arrange this ligand according to their CFSE energy. What I'm telling, to arrange this ligand according to their CFSE value, then we get a special type of series which is known as spectrochemical series. I will discuss it later, because CFSE, we will discuss about CFSE in CFT, crystal field theory. Is it clear to you? So this is one of the important topic related to coordination compound. How to find which one is strong field ligand and which one is weak field ligand. Now, friend, I am moving here and going to discuss why there is a need to study CFT. Why do we study CFT? That is, there is a few limitation of VVT. Due to this reason, we have to study CFT. Now if anyone asks you what are the limitations, limitations of CFT, limitations of VVT. What are the limitations of VVT? First limitation, friend, this theory could not explain why certain coordination compounds are inner orbital complex or certain compounds are outer orbital complex. It does not explain. The first drawback, the first limitation is it does not explain the existence. It does not explain the existence of. It does not explain the existence of inner orbital or outer orbital complexes. Is it clear to you? It does not explain the existence of inner orbital or outer orbital complex. Is it clear to you? Now the second one is, it does not explain it does not explain the spectral properties. It does not explain the spectral properties. It does not explain the spectral properties of coordination compound. Coordination compound. Is it clear to you? This is the second limitation. The third limitation, it does not explain why the certain coordination compound are labile or inert. Is it clear to you? The third limitation is it does not explain why certain coordination compound, it does not explain why certain coordination compound are labile and certain compounds are inert. Is it clear to you? It does not explain why certain coordination compounds are labile complex, why certain molecules are labile complex or certain are inert. Is it clear to you? Labile complex or inert complex. Is it clear to you, friend? Now, I'm moving here, friend. What are the next limitation? The fourth one is it does not explain the color of complexes. It does not explain the color of complexes. Is it clear to you? Fifth one, it does not explain why do the magnetic moment of compounds changes, magnetic moment of compounds change with temperature. Is it clear to you that these are the few limitations of VBT? The main limitation that it could not explain the existence of inner orbital or outer orbital complex, and second, it could not explain the spectral properties of coordination compound. It could not give any information regarding the color of complex. It does not explain why do the magnetic moment of compound changes with temperature. It does not explain why certain coordination compounds are labile or inert complex. Is it clear to you? To overcome this limitation, there comes CFT, because this theory completely explains the color of the complex, the existence of inner orbital and outer orbital complex, the existence of labile and inert complex. It also explains the spectral properties of coordination compound. To overcome such limitations, of VBT, there comes, friend, new theory, and this theory is known as CFT. Is it clear to you? And the full form is, friend, crystal field theory. Is it clear to you? This theory is known as crystal field theory. Is it clear to you, friend? What is the actual approach? This theory describes the This theory describes the splitting. This theory describes the splitting the metal D subcell. Why the D subcells of metal splits? This theory generally describes the splitting. This theory describes the splitting of the metal D subcell. As we know, there are 5 d orbitals, 1 2 3 4 5. These are friend dxy, dyz, dxz, dx square minus y square, and dz square. Is it clear to you? This theory describes why does a metal atom or ion splits its D subcell, because in isolated conditions, or in isolated condition, if we consider an isolated metal atom, then these all have equal energy, that is they are degenerated orbital. But when a ligand approach during the formation of coordination compound, what I'm telling, during the formation of coordination compound, these orbital, the degeneracy lost. There is a change in the degeneracy. Why there is a change in degeneracy, where there is a loss in degeneracy? Then this theory describe the splitting of the metal D subcell. Is it clear to you? It is completely a electrostatic approach. What I am telling, friend, it is completely a electrostatic approach. It is completely electrostatic. That means to say, it consider metal atom. It consider metal atom, that is metal atom ion as point charge. Is it clear to you? It consider metal atom, metal ion as point charge, and ligands are also treated as point charge. Is it visible to you, friend? First of all, tell me. Then it consider metal ion as point charge, and the approaching ligands are point charge. Metal atoms ions are positive point charge, and ligands are treated as negative point charge. As we know, if there is a positive and negative ions are there, we all know their existence of electrostatic force of attraction. Is it clear to you, friend? There exists a electrostatic force of attraction. So this theory completely based on electrostatic approach. This is a electrostatic approach, and it describes the splitting of the metal D subcell when a ligand approaches to the metal atom or ion. When a ligand approaches to metal atom or ion, then there is a loss in degeneracy, and there is a formation of new set of degenerated orbital, which is known as, friend, do you remember, T2G and EG? I will discuss it later. Is it clear to you? Again I am repeating, to overcome the limitations of VVT, there comes CFT, crystal field theory. This is completely a electrostatic approach used to describe the splitting of D subcell of central metal atom or ion. Is it clear to you, friend? So if anyone asks you what are the postulates of CFT? Postulates of CFT. First of all, it is a electrostatic approach. It is a electrostatic approach Is it clear to you? It is a electrostatic approach used to describe the splitting of d subcell, that is d subcell, splitting of d subcell orbital. I am talking about d orbitals 1 2 3 4 and 5, used to describe the splitting of d subcell of central metal atom or ion when a ligand approaches to central metal atom, or ion. Is it clear to you, friend? That is what I am telling. It is a electrostatic approach. I am moving slowly, friend, so wait for a moment. Be cool. Okay, it is a electrostatic approach used to describe the splitting of d subcell, that is the orbitals which has equal energy, degenerated orbitals of the central metal atom or ion when a ligand approaches to the central metal atom or ion. Is it clear to you? Now moving here, what is the second postulate? This theory consider the central metal ion and ligands and the approaching ligand. This theory consider the central metal ion and ligands as point charge. Is it clear to you? As point charge. Is it clear, friend? That is central metal atom CMA is treated as positive point charge, friend. Is it clear to you, friend? And the ligands are treated as negative point charge. The ligands are treated as a negative point charge. Now, the third one is, if there is a attraction between ligand and CMA, that is central metal atom, then the energy decreases. Is it clear to you, friend? If the net force is force of attraction, then in this case the energy decreases. If the net force is force of repulsion, then in this case, friend, energy increases. Is it clear to you what I am telling, friend? I am moving here. That is when ligand approaches, these are ligands. If I am talking about ligands, when ligand approaches to central metal atom, then what will happen, friend? As we know, ligand contains electron pair, that is lone pair of electron. When ligand approaches to metal, and this is a metal which also contains, friend, valence electrons. Is it clear to you? When ligand approaches to metals, then these lone pair and valence electron repel each other, and in this case the net force is force of repulsion, and due to this repulsion, what I am telling, friend, and due to this repulsion, the degeneracy of the d subcell d orbitals breaks. degeneracy loses, and there comes a new set of degenerate orbital, which is known as T2G and EG. What I'm telling, when ligand approaches to central metal atom, then there is a repulsion between this electron pair and the valence electrons of central metal atom, and due to this reason the degeneracy of the orbital breaks, and there comes a existence of new set of degenerate orbitals, which is known as T2G and EG. Is it clear to you? Now friend, what is the next postulate? A complex forms when ligands approaches to central metal atom or ion. Is it clear to you? A complex only form when ligands approaches to central metal atom. Is it clear to you? Friend, these are the, I'm moving here friend, these are the few postulates related to CFT. So first of all, if anyone, I am asking you a question, if anyone asks you what do you mean by, why do we study CFT? The simple answer for this question is to overcome the limitation of valence bond theory. We need a new theory, and this theory is known as CFT, crystal field theory. As we know, when a ligand approaches to a central metal atom, there comes a electrostatic force of repulsion, because ligand contain lone pair of electron and central metal atom also have a valence shell electron, and when same charges are there, then there is a existence of force of repulsion. Due to this repulsion, the degeneracy of the orbitals breaks, and there is a existence of new set of degenerate orbital, which is known as T2G and EG. T2G means triply degenerate orbitals, and EG friend means doubly degenerate. That is, the 5 orbitals will break into 2 parts. T2G contains triply 3 and EG contains 2. Is it clear to you? I will describe it later. So CFT is completely based on the electrostatic approach, because in electrostatic approach, because in CFT it consider the central metal atom or ion and ligands are point charges. If there is a presence of charges, then we all know there is a existence of electrostatic force of interaction. Either it is force of attraction or force of repulsion. Again I am telling, if the net force is force of attraction, then the energy friend decreases. If the net force is force of repulsion, then the friend energy increases. Is it clear to you friend? CFT is completely a electrostatic approach. Now we'll discuss crystal field splitting. What happens when a ligand approaches to central metal atom? Is it clear to you friend? Wait for a moment. I'm going to rub. Give me few seconds. Is it clear friend? Now the topic is friend, that is crystal field splitting. This one, crystal field splitting. Is it clear to you? Now what happens? Wait for a moment. As we know, at ground state, or we can say isolated state. If the metal is in free state, that is free state, we can say at the isolated or free state, generally we know when we discuss about coordination compound, the central metal contains d orbitals, because generally d and f block elements, generally friend, d and f block elements forms, generally d and f block element form coordination compounds. Is it clear to you? Because they all have vacant d subshell. In if I talk about d block elements, that is they have d orbitals. In free state, they all d orbitals have equal energy, that is they are degenerate orbitals. Is it clear to you? What are the 5 types? There are 5 orbitals. First one is friend dxy, dyz friend, dxz. Is it clear to you? dx square minus y square and wait for a moment, dz square. Is it clear to you? That this is the condition when the central metal atom is in free state, all have equal energy, that is they are degenerate orbital. These are degenerate orbitals, all have equal energy. Is it clear to you, friend? Now what will happen in this case? When ligands approaches to central metal atom, then there is a existence of force of repulsion take place, and due to this reason the degeneracy will break, and there is a existence of new set of degenerate orbital, and these sets are treated as friend Eg and T2G. Is it clear to you? That is when a metal is in free state, that is isolated form, then all d orbitals have equal energy, that is they are degenerate orbitals, what I am telling. But when a ligand approaches to central metal atom or ion, then the degeneracy of these orbitals break, because there is a existence of force of repulsion. Due to this reason, there is a formation of two set of degenerate orbital take place, and these two set of degenerate orbitals are treated as T2G and Eg. T2G means friend triple degenerate, wait for a moment, triply degenerate orbitals. Is it clear to you? And it will consider the set dxy, dyz and dxz. Is it clear, friend? dxy, dyz and dxz, that is triply degenerate orbitals. Is it clear? When we talk about Eg, that is friend doubly degenerate orbitals. Is it clear to you? Wait for a moment, friend. Doubly degenerate orbitals. Now it will consider friend dx square minus y square and dz square. Is it clear to you? So when a ligand approach, the degeneracy of the d orbitals breaks, and there is a formation of two new set of degenerate orbitals. That is, first one is T2g, which contain dxy, dyz and dxz, that is triply degenerate orbital. And the second one is, friend, EG, doubly degenerate orbital, which contain dx square minus dx square minus y square and dz square. Is it clear to you, friend? Now I am moving here. Wait for a moment. So now we can say that is, talk about dxy, friend. Talk about wait for a moment. If I talk about dxy, friend, the structure is like this. As we know, the structure of d subshell orbital, each orbital has double dumbbell. Is it clear, friend? This one is, friend, if xy plane, then friend this one is dxy. If I talk about dyz, the structure is like this. Give me few seconds, friend, so that I can draw the figure. This one is, friend, treated like yz plane. Now if I talk about, friend, dxz, is it clear to you? dxz, this one is x and this one is z plane. Is it clear, friend? Now this three set, when a ligand approaches, is known as T2G, that is triply 1, 2, 3, triply degenerate orbital, set of triply degenerate orbital. G for Girard. Is it clear to you, friend? Now look at here, the lobes are between the axis. Is it clear to you? This one, lobes are between xy plane, the lobes are between zy plane, the lobes are between xz plane. In this case, the lobes are between the axis. Lobes are between the axis. Is it clear to you? Now I am moving here. If I talk about EG, then it consider dx square y square, friend. That is, this is the structure of dx square y square, friend. Do you have any idea? Wait for a moment. This one is dx square minus y square. Is it clear to you? And the second one is, friend, that is dz square. Is it clear to you? Four lobes are like this. This one is dz square. Is it clear, friend? Or it can also be represented like this. You have studied in your book this one. There is a ring structure, that is, wait for a moment, there is a ring. This one is also the structure of dz square. Is it clear to you? Now look at here. These lobes are not between the axes, these are along the axis. So if we talk about EG, that is doubly degenerated. Why doubly degenerated? There is an involvement of two degenerate orbital, dx square minus y square and dz square. Is it clear to you, friend? So in this case, the lobes are along the axis. Is it clear to you? The lobes are along the axis. So when now we can say when a ligand approaches, friend, I am moving here, when a ligand approaches to central metal atom, then the degeneracy disappears and there is the existence of two new set of degenerate orbital, that is T2G, triply degenerate orbital, which contain dxy, dyz and dxz. The lobes are between the axis in this case. Why I am stressing on this? Because it will help you when we will discuss the crystal field splitting in octahedral and tetrahedral complexes. And again there is new set EG, that is doubly degenerate orbital, that is dx square minus y square and dz square. Here the lobes are along the axis. Is it clear to you? The lobes are along the axis. Friend, I am moving here. I am moving here, friend. Now the lobes are along the axis. Is it clear to you? That is, there is two possibility of breaking. When a metal approach to when a ligand approaches to central metal atom, the degeneracy will break. Then either T2G will be at higher energy level and EG will be at lower energy level. This is the first condition. And the second condition is either EG will be at higher energy level and T2G is at lower energy level. Now we have to find out in which case EG is at higher energy level and T2G at lower energy level. I am giving you a simple idea. When we talk about octahedral complexes, then we will find that EG is at higher energy level and T2G as lower energy level. If we talk about the tetrahedral complexes, friend, then we will find that EG is at lower energy level and T2G is at higher energy level. In my next lecture, I will discuss about this, why T2G is at higher energy level in tetrahedral complex and why EG is at higher energy level in octahedral complex. Is it clear to you, friend? So friend, thank you so much.